Well, here we are on another Friday evening. We're all the way into July of 2021 already. It's July 9th, actually, and it's 7:04 p.m. Central Standard Time. And it's time for another Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas General Club meeting. My name is Will Young. I am the president of the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas. We have an awesome panel tonight of cool people who love space and astronomy. And that'll become even more clear as we go on through the night. I promise you that. To this side of me, I actually got it right this time. That's incredible. Usually I do that. Mr. Carl Dunn is here with us tonight. How you doing, Carl? Doing great. Thanks, Will. Yeah, good to see you, man. Below me down here is our special guest for this evening. We're going to get to his major introduction in a second. It's Mr. Brian Duffy. Brian, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I'm so happy to join. Thank you.
Yeah, and down there, I got it right again. I can't believe it. Mr. Eddie Trevino, our club treasurer, a very hard job in the club these days to keep track.
It's grueling. How's everybody doing tonight?
It's good to see everybody in the chat. We got lots of familiar faces, and we've got a lot of stuff to cover tonight, so we're going to get straight into it. We're going to hear from our astronaut guest, Mr. Brian Duffy, here in a few seconds. And so what I'll do is I'll put this on the screen where you can kind of see all of us, and I can kind of move people around, which is fun. All right. So we are the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas. We're an astronomy club based in Beaumont, Texas. If you know where that is, maybe you know where Houston is, then just look to the right a little bit. We are a club that was founded in the 80s, and we're still going on to this day. Our main focus is outreach, which has been great doing these online meetings. We've reached around the world with these, and that's amazing. And so we're here to talk a little bit about astronomy and some club business and stuff that's coming up. But first, if you've been out observing, we want to know about it. I know down in the Houston Beaumont area, it's been very cloudy, horribly rainy, and stuff like that. But if you've been out, if you've caught glimpses of Venus, maybe in the west, I've been catching a couple of glimpses here and there. Throw those down in the comments. We can put those up as we go along. I don't know, but Eddie, have you been doing any observing? You've been out there looking at stuff?
I have not, Will. Another month of clouds and inopportune times. Sad to say, no observing.
Yeah. What about you, Carl? You been out there doing anything?
I did catch Venus a couple times, but that's about it. Like I said, I'm getting hit by rain clouds too.
Yeah. Oh, and Mr. Duffy, I mean, have you been out? I know you probably have a special connection to space, being that you've been there. Do you ever catch this sight here and now and again?
Well, I have to admit, every time I go out to get the papers early in the morning, before sunup, I'm always looking up, and as everyone else has been saying lately, it's been nothing to see just because of the clouds. But yeah, I think I spend more time looking up than looking down.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, that's amazing. And if y'all have been out observing as we go through the segments tonight, I'll be putting those up. So let us know if you've been looking at anything. Let us know if there's something we've missed. You know, sometimes there's a comet or something that comes up and no one knows about it until one person puts a scope on the sky and says, "Hey, look over here," and then everybody's like, "No, we missed it," you know, or people discover comets like that all the time. So let us know if there's anything you've seen that you'd like to report in. We'll definitely take it. But a little bit of space news. Thought I'd throw this in there. Yesterday was July 8th, and 10 years ago yesterday was the final flight of a space shuttle. And that shuttle happened to be Atlantis, and that was STS-135. And so it's been 10 years. I mean, that's a decade. That's a long time. Now we're into the commercial space flight. You know, we have companies like SpaceX and lots of other contractors that are doing space stuff. Of course, we do have the SLS coming soon, and that's very exciting stuff. So almost a decade after the shuttle program ended, we're almost ready to start doing the space launch system is the next sort of thing that comes up. I don't know, Carl, to me, it kind of looks like an Apollo rocket and a shuttle kind of had babies or something.
That's a perfect description of it. And you mentioned the commercial crew program. Doug Hurley, right?
Mm-hmm.
STS-135, he was one of the last to fly in the shuttle, but then also now the first to return launching from American soil in the Dragon capsule. So he's got a connection there. But yeah, looking forward to to SLS. I wanna get back and explore the moon. So
me too. Even though I'm not the one going there, I'm with you. I do too. And that last mission, that STS-135 was Atlantis, and Brian Duffy actually has a special connection to Atlantis. He's flown the thing. He was the pilot for one of those missions. We're going to talk about that in a second. But there is Atlantis. That's not a one-to-one mock-up of the space shuttle Atlantis at Kennedy Space Center. That's it. That's the actual orbiter itself. And I've stood where those people stand down there, and I can tell you that it's an awe-inspiring sight to see just how big that thing is.
That was my home for 9 days.
9 days, yeah. And I mean, it was a nice place, right? It was the best apartment at that altitude, I guess. Absolutely.
And every time I go to the Kennedy Space Center and I go check on it, I make sure that they're keeping my window clean.
Yeah, because it's definitely VFR after what 200,000 feet, I think, something like that.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah,
the VFR from up there. Of course, that's not. Yeah, so STS-135, 10 years ago, y'all. Can y'all believe that? It's all the way back. I don't even remember what I was doing 10 years ago. Okay, so we'll keep moving here. Last time we had a meeting last year, the last 2 months of the meeting, I showed this picture of this insane telescope. That link under the telescope will take you to the article written by Teleview on that telescope, okay? So you can type that in, or you can find it in the description below. It should be down there. You can click on that, and it's an article that you have to read if you're into Dobsonian telescopes, because this is a 3-mirrored telescope, well, technically more. But in the main body of the telescope, there's 3 mirrors where there are normally only 2. So there is a tertiary mirror in this thing. Again, the link is in the description if you want to read that article. I'm not going to go through too much detail on that because I've been talking about it for, it seems like, 2 months. And thanks to Starfought on YouTube for going to Texas Star Party all those years ago and taking a picture of Al Nagler and John Dobson looking through this crazy telescope. You can see the builder his name's Clyde, and this is his bigger version of the blue one. And you can see it's the same design. No matter what part of the sky the telescope is pointed in, you sit in that chair just like that. So it's ultimate in comfort. And read the article, y'all. I'm telling you, it'll blow your mind. There's just some fascinating stuff in there. But if you look down the barrel, as it were, you can see the main big mirror in the back there. I guess I can use my cursor here. This shiny thing is the main mirror. You've got the secondary mirror up here between these cross spider veins, right? And the third mirror is this little black dot sitting right down here. And that's going to kick the light off to this blue box, which is where the refractor is sitting. If you know Dobsonians, you know how crazy this is. So I wanted to throw that out there and tell y'all that I did find the article thanks to Buster Wilson from the Houston Astronomical Society. So there you go. Yeah, I want that scope for sure. I wonder where it is.
I'd like to look through it.
Absolutely. We are a club, so there are dues if you do want to join. They're $30 a year per family. Unless it's your first year joining, we do prorate you. However many, whatever it is per month, we'll prorate you. There are some of the club perks. I won't go through them all, but there they are. And you can check us out. We'd love to have y'all. We have members now, not just in Southeast Texas, all over the place. So that's pretty awesome, and we appreciate that. We even have members in Germany, which we're going to talk about next month, which will be very cool. A friend of ours. Amazon Smile, if you do shop on Amazon, smile.amazon.com. And you can put our EIN number down there in the green, or you can search us as Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas. And every dollar you spend, we get 0.5%. Not your money. It's Jeff Bezos' money. So like Eddie said, we're technically defunding Blue Origin just ever so slightly every time you shop on Amazon Smile. So kind of a strange joke, but that it is what it is. So we would like your free Jeff Bezos money, and we do appreciate all y'all who have shopped there. Eddie, we've made a pretty good amount of money just for people shopping.
We have. In fact, we just got a donation from Amazon Smile. It was for the first quarter of this year. It was about $40, and that puts a total that we've gotten from Amazon right around $1,400.
Wow.
And we've been doing this for a few years, so that's nice.
Yeah, that's a equatorial mount, basically, right? I mean, $1,500, you can get a nice Skywatcher or Orion equatorial mount with that. So thanks, Jeff Bezos. We appreciate that. And hey, what's up, Josh? How you doing? And so, Eddie, do you have a treasure report for us other than what you really just gave us?
Yeah, well, this month or this last month, we had a couple of expenditures, and I had to pay the Astronomical League dues for the club. That comes up every June, and so I did that. And then we have a yearly payment to our website. We pay for 3 things on a yearly basis, and that came up and got paid. And we actually got a new member this month.
Cool.
I'm very excited. New member, so of course her dues were prorated. She paid through the website, and so she paid the full amount, and I've refunded half because it's July, and you join in July, that's half the year that you're paying for. Only for new members, though.
That's
so
right.
We have 38 member families now, so good for us.
Yeah, awesome. Very cool. And again, if y'all want to join, get with Eddie or myself, and we'll get you squared away. Thank you, Eddie. We do have elections coming up for all the board member parts, president, vice president, everything down the line. If you know someone that wants to nominate themselves or you want to nominate someone, please let us know. We will be going back to in-person meetings soon, and I've got some info on that. So we'll be working out the details of the elections as we get closer to the end of the year. I just want to keep reminding everybody that we do have those coming. We do have a lot of outreach requests to bring our telescopes down to places and show people the moon and stuff like that. These are just some of the places that are begging us to come back and bring our telescopes. So those plans are actually going to start rolling forward pretty soon. So I'm going to start booking things toward the fall, late summer, as we kind of wind out of this pandemic here. Big news, everybody. Big news, everybody. And I just let the cat out of the bag, but there it is. The first asset meeting since March, or was it April? I think it was April of 2020 will be on August 6th, 2021 at the Frank Planetarium. Normally we meet on the second Friday, but with back to school being on a crazy year like it's going to be, we're going to go in 1 week early. And that means that it's only a few weeks now until, or a little bit around of about a month until the next meeting. So we will be at the planetarium at 7 p.m. on August 6th. So mark your calendars. If you're online fans, I don't know what we're going to do yet about that. There may be an online broadcast. We don't know. So please don't expect anything. But if it does happen, it'll be a surprise. So that is a huge announcement. Just want to let everybody know about that. I'm excited to get back to meetings.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know Carl is too. Carl's going to actually come all the way from Houston to hang out with us. So,
yeah,
all right,
we got to arrange some snacks. We got to have snacks for the first meeting.
You know, we do, and that's a great call, Eddie. I didn't even think about that, and I mean, because we haven't had snacks since April of last year. So, I don't even know who's going to do it, but we'll figure something out.
I think I can do it.
Eddie is going for it, and there's our planetarium, I guess, planetarium person, Miss Sharon Rigsby. Can't wait to see everyone. Awesome. Well, we can't wait to see you, Sharon. It's good to hear from you as well. And then as we're coming into Mr. Duffy's talk here, this is your July 2021 calendar that Howard Miner puts together for us. So many cool things on this calendar, but one of the things that really sticks out to me is on Thursday, July 15th in 1994, a comet hit Jupiter and everyone watched. And they did that because a group of 3 people, Carolyn and Gene Shoemaker and David Levy, found a comet, calculated its trajectory, and figured out it was going to hit Jupiter. And then it did, and everyone got to see it. So thank you, David Levy, Gene and Carolyn. We appreciate y'all as well. I know they're passed on, but and NASA was founded in 1958. That's pretty cool. NASA keeps getting talked about in our astronomy meeting, which is awesome. And you guys will see why here in a second. So And notice all the moons are on Saturday, all the different phases there. I don't know if I've ever seen that. Maybe that's a normal thing, but that seems pretty interesting. So, wrong button there. There we go. All right. So our special guest tonight, thanks to Carl Dunn here. Carl was able to get Mr. Brian Duffy to take some time out of his schedule to come talk to us, and I couldn't be more excited. I mean, I don't know if we've ever had an astronaut at the club before. Maybe we have before I joined in 2009, but we've never had an astronaut on our live version of our meetings, and we're going to tonight, which is amazing. And so, Carl, I'm going to turn it over to you, and if you can do our intro for Mr. Duffy.
Sure. So yes, Colonel Duffy, retired NASA astronaut. Before that, he went to the Air Force Academy, and he flew F-15s for the Air Force. And then, after flying for several years, he went on and became an astronaut. So he flew the space shuttle 4 times, 2 as a pilot, and then 2 as a commander. And so, without further ado, let's hear from him, and he'll tell you more about how he got into NASA and when he made him become an astronaut. And if you have any questions for him, start putting them in the comment section now, and then we'll be able to ask him after he gives his introduction. So take it away, Brian.
Okay, Carl, thanks. Yeah, I'm really happy to be able to join you guys tonight. I have to admit I'm not much of an astronomer. But however, I've been interested in space since I was very young and followed it. And in fact, what I thought I'd do here tonight is just take a few minutes kind of to talk about the space program as I saw it growing in and my interest in it and how I got in it. And then I'll open it up and we'll talk about any questions you have and what you'd like to hear rather than what I want to say, because I know you'll be kind enough probably to not interrupt me. So if we can look at you can go to the next chart there. So there's this chubby little kid on the left there, and that's about the age I was when I watched Alan Shepard become the first American astronaut. And I remember watching it on television on a black and white TV, which many of you won't know what that is. You can go to a museum and see what a black and white television is. But as a young boy, watching Alan Shepard come out and climb up into a rocket and leave the planet really got my imagination going and thinking, wow, anything's possible. You just never know what could happen, and that very smart people are capable of doing great things. And so little did I know, that I would go from that kind of chubby young Cub Scout on the left there into the semi-chubby young astronaut on the right, or not so young astronaut on the right. There over, what would that have been? I guess that picture was taken, the astronaut picture was taken in probably 98. So I would have been 40, 45 plus, I guess, at that point. So there's 45 years maybe between those pictures. So, okay, we can go to the next one. So here's the Mercury one, Alan Shepard's launch. In 1961, I just thought it was incredible that, we had the capability to put a person in that little bitty black capsule that's on the top of that rocket and launch it, in this case, into space. It didn't orbit, but it was a suborbital flight, but got a human being off the planet, and he experienced what I later learned was zero gravity. And I'll say that I love zero gravity. In fact, I'm happy to go on the record saying I hate gravity. In the 40 plus days I had in space, I loved every minute of it. So and we can look at the next slide here. So that 15 minutes, after 15 minutes of human spaceflight experience, President John F. Kennedy committed the United States to send a person to the moon and bring them safely back to Earth. That was a huge commitment back in 1961, and he wanted to do it by the end of the decade. So here we are as a country with 15 minutes of human spaceflight experience, and he's made a commitment to the world that we're going to do it all by the end of the decade. And when I look back at that, I remember it happening because I was 8, 9 years old, at the time. I remember it being in the news and it being a national goal. But I couldn't, now looking back at it, I can't believe that he made that commitment to do that. But it inspired the country to commit to achieving that goal. The next slide. So the Mercury program was, like the original 7, they all had a chance to fly their mission. So there were 7 Mercury missions, and they were one-person missions. But we realized that at the end of the Mercury program, we weren't ready to go to the moon. We hadn't done and demonstrated that we knew how to do all of the things that would be required. So the Gemini program was created, and here you see a picture of a Gemini capsule there, and that was where the Mercury had a single astronaut in it. The Geminis had 2 astronauts in it. And in the Gemini program, we learned to do things like conduct rendezvous and dockings, and some of the things that we were going to have to do to be able to successfully go to the moon. Next slide. And that led to eventually into the Apollo program. And the Apollo program, where we had the Saturn series of rockets, the Saturn 1 initially, and then the Saturn 5, which was the large rocket that eventually took us to the moon. Next slide. And that led us to the point where when I was 16 years old, I watched Neil and Buzz actually step foot on the moon for the first time. And so I had been following the program from the time I watched Alan Shepard all the way through the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs to this point here, where all of a sudden now, an enormous and incredible event where human beings were actually setting foot on another celestial planet, which was it just amazed me. I remember that evening. I was in the town where I grew up was south of Boston, Massachusetts, and it was a clear evening. I think it was a Sunday, if I remember right. But we were outside of my friend's house. We were playing basketball in the driveway, but we were looking in through the window of his house at the television, watching what was going on, watching the astronauts, Neil and Buzz eventually walking on the moon. And I just remember looking in the window at the television, seeing the scene, looking up at the moon that I could see very clearly right overhead, looking back at the window, looking up at the moon, and I just couldn't believe that it was all happening like that. So, even at this point, I had no idea I would ever be part of the space program, however. But I thought I wanted to fly. I'd never been in an airplane, but the Blue Angels, the Navy, flight demonstration team used to come to the town. There was a naval air station in the town right next to mine. And so they would come every year and put on demonstrations. And when I was in high school, I started thinking, that looks pretty fun. I think I might like to do that. So then you can put the next slide. So I went to the Air Force Academy thinking, or actually knowing that if I was medically qualified when I graduated, I'd have a chance to become an Air Force pilot. So I went and did that while I was a cadet at the Academy. I was exposed to flying. I got a chance to fly in the backseat of the F-4, which was the hottest airplane at the time. And I decided as a 19-year-old that I really wanted to be a fighter pilot. So I committed myself to doing that. And when after graduating from the Air Force Academy, I went to pilot training. And at the end of pilot training, I finished first in my class, which was very fortunate because the first graduate gets a chance to get the first selection of assignments. And there was one F-15 assignment, and that picture that you just saw was of an F-15. So I took the F-15 as my assignment and got a chance to go fly the F-15. I flew 2 operational tours in it as in Virginia Beach at Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, and then 3 years in Okinawa, Japan. And then I was given the opportunity to go to the Air Force Test Pilot School, which sounded like a lot of fun. I had a chance to, I had a friend that went to the Air Force Test Pilot School, and he described it as getting a PhD in flying. And that sounded like an interesting thing to me, like a good challenge. So I applied and I was accepted to go to the test pilot school. And then after graduating, I went to Eglin Air Force Base in the Panhandle of Florida, and I was the head F-15 test pilot there. So I was still flying F-15s, which I loved. And that's when NASA came up with in 1985, they said, hey, they were ramping up their flight rate in the space shuttle program. They were building new orbiters. They were going to need new pilots. So they put out an announcement saying we were going to have a selection for space shuttle pilots. And I thought, wow, that sounds like the ultimate test pilot job to me. So I applied and was fortunately accepted. So go to the next slide. So there's the vehicle. I transitioned from flying the F-15 to then hopefully flying the space shuttle, which was a whole different vehicle, completely different world. You know, the space shuttle actually looks like an airplane, but it doesn't fly like an airplane. You know, it's a rocket ship when it launches. It's a spacecraft when it's in orbit, and it's a speeding bullet when it's coming back into the atmosphere. And it only acts like an airplane about the last 5 minutes of the entire mission. But by flying it was an incredible, being selected to fly it was an incredible honor and something I'll always be grateful for. Next slide. I never thought I would see this view. You know, all the flying I had done was obviously down in the lower atmosphere. But here you can see in the view is that up to the point where the dark reaches, that's where all the mixing happens in the lower atmosphere. And then it transitions gradually to more layered gases where the different density gases, because there's no vertical mixing from the heating from the sun, you get the atmosphere layering out, and then eventually you can see it fading up to the blackest space. Next slide.
There we go.
Yeah, so to get there to see that view, this is where all the action is, and the launch is very exciting. The challenge that we have to get anything into space, and that vehicle, the whole vehicle with the boosters and the tank and the orbiter, that's the size of a 15-story building. It weighs 5 million pounds, and we have to accelerate it to go in 17,500 miles an hour in 8.5 minutes. And that takes an amazing amount of energy. And the bulk of the energy comes from those 2 solid rocket boosters on the side. They produce about 6 million pounds of thrust. They burn for just over 2 minutes. They get us to a point where we're about 25 miles high and about 25 miles down range, going more than 4 times the speed of sound. So at that point, we're already faster than a rifle bullet. But we're just getting started. So when the booster's fuel is used up, we jettison those. They would fall back into the atmosphere under parachutes. They had a flotation system. We would collect them and take them back and reload them and reuse them. The 3 engines on the back of the orbiter, the liquid engines, they're being fed liquid oxygen from the pointy end of the tank and liquid hydrogen from the barrel section of the tank. And they started 7 seconds before launch, and they ran the entire 8.5 minutes to get us into orbit. And they produced about 1.5 million pounds of thrust between the three of them. And so those were the engines that ran the entire time to get us into space. So we talk about the orbital velocity. We talk about it as being 17,500 miles an hour, and when we reference it, we talk about it as feet per second. It's 26,000 feet per second. So to get into orbit, you have to get going more than 5 miles a second, which is really fast. So, okay, the next slide. So I had a chance to, I won't belabor this anymore, but I had a chance to fly 4 times on the shuttle, and all the missions were different. The ascents and the entries were pretty much the same, other than the orbital inclination that we had. My first flight on the upper left there, we try to capture what we're doing on the mission in our patch design. The crews actually designed their own patches. So we were actually studying the Earth's atmosphere and the sun. So what we did was we had instruments that took measurements as the sun rose through the atmosphere, and then as the sun set through the atmosphere. So every 45 minutes, the sun either rose or descended as we go around the Earth every 90 minutes. So my job as the pilot there was just to point the instruments on the point on the Earth where the sun would rise, and then flip it around and point it to where the sun would set. So, and in between, I had nothing else to do as a pilot. So it was great. I was looking out the window, looking at this beautiful Earth that we all share. I loved it. My second mission on the right there, upper right, was a satellite retrieval mission. It was a European science satellite that we went to get. And it was also the first flight of a laboratory module that was back in the payload bay, and it had a round body and a flat top. So you can see at the bottom of the flag on the top there, it's nice and flat. So that inner shape there that you see, that was actually the shape of the laboratory module that we flew for the first time. My third flight in the lower left, first time I was the commander, it was another satellite retrieval mission. This was a Japanese satellite, and it was octagonal in shape. And so you can see the inner border there that's outlined in gold is an octagon. And you can see the other aspects of the mission there. We had another satellite that we deployed and retrieved. And then finally, my fourth mission on the lower right there was a International Space Station assembly mission. And we carried up 2 pieces of the International Space Station. The primary payload that we had was called the Z1 truss. So you can see the big Z, the red Z feature that's in the design of the patch. You can see the gray structure is the way the space station was going to look when we got there. And then, of course, the outline of the space shuttle orbiter that was there. So it was an amazing career. I didn't start out as that chubby 8-year-old thinking I was going to be an astronaut. I was always interested in space. I was interested in all my science classes growing up. I just never thought I'd have a chance to be part of it. I feel like I was very blessed that things worked out the way they did, and I had a chance to be part of the space shuttle program. And I still support human space exploration and space, as much as I can, even now as I'm, trying to retire. So with that, I think if it's okay, I'll open it up to questions.
Awesome. And guys, if y'all do have any questions out there, throw them in the chat room wherever you're watching us, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, or whatever. And we can get those questions to Mr. Duffy. And I don't know, Eddie, did you want to start with your question? I know you had one, and I have like 19, but I'll narrow it down to just a couple, if that's okay.
Sure, Mr. Duffy. I noticed in your pictures you were wearing a scout uniform as a young boy. And I read somewhere that a lot of astronauts were scouts as youngsters. And I was curious how long you stayed in the scouts.
Yeah, many were Scouts. Actually, a lot were Eagle Scouts, which I was not. So I was in the Scouts for maybe 3 or 4 years, and then I was also playing a lot of athletics and the competition of time between scouting and athletics, and I ended up choosing playing basketball and baseball and football and the other sports. So, but I was a scout, and you learn a lot of things as a scout. You learn that you're individually responsible for doing things, and you also learn teamwork. So the value, I can see why being in scouting has helped people in their careers, in particular as an astronaut, because really we're just team members. We get singled out as we're kind of like the point of the spear that people are looking at, but really we're just doing our job as part of the overall team effort. So being a team player is really important.
Very good. Excellent answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And so I'll go ahead and throw one of mine in there. And then I think we have Spencer with one as well. You've logged more than 5,000 hours on airframes. And I'm a student pilot right now. I'm working towards getting my license, but I'm wondering, what was your favorite over the years? And you can't say Atlantis because that's cheating, but like, what else did you fly that was like your favorite, I guess?
Well, I stopped counting at 5,000 when I went past 5,000 hours. I actually don't know how many hours I had. It didn't matter anymore. My favorite, as far as airplanes, you can't compare airplanes and the space shuttle. The space shuttle's in a category all of its own. But flying the F-15 was pretty amazing. I got the F-15 assignment in August of 1976. I got married in September of 1976, so a month later. And then when I was flying the airplane, my newlywed wife was saying, "Which do you love more, me or the airplane?" Because I really enjoyed flying the F-15. It was a dream to fly. It was the easiest airplane to physically fly, and the hardest airplane to employ, where you're employing all of the systems that were on board, the radar and all of the combat systems that were on, and it was a single seat fighter, so you're doing it all yourself, and all of the controls are on the hands and the throttles. So all of the buttons and everything are there. So you're flying and working the throttles, but you're also working all the controls, for all of the systems are on there. It was called HOTAS, hands-on throttle and stick. Was the way they designed the airplane.
What was the first airplane you flew, just out of curiosity?
It would have been in the T-33, which was, ancient now, but that's what I got exposed to as a cadet at the Air Force Academy. So I'd never flown an airplane. I'd actually never even seen the inside of an airplane until I got on an airliner to fly to Colorado Springs to go to the Air Force Academy.
Wow.
I thought I wanted to be a pilot, but I didn't really know what that meant. So,
incredible.
Yeah, but at the academy, I got exposed to different airplanes. That they had a program they called Stardust, and they would take cadets and take us. The instructors would take us up for a ride, a couple of times a year. But it was when I was maybe a sophomore, during a summer. I was 19 years old during the summer. One of my summer programs, I got a chance to go to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in Goldsboro, North Carolina, and fly in the back seat of an F-4, which was the hottest airplane in the day.
The Phantom.
The Phantom, yep. And I decided right then, as a 19-year-old, this is what I want to do. I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
That's awesome.
So that became my drive and everything I did after that.
Now I feel very dumb. I was a Cessna 152 for my first flight, so not cool. Our one of our club members, Mr. Spencer Pratt, would like to know, what years did you attend the Air Force Academy?
I got there in 50 years ago now. In fact, 50 years ago on the 5th of July, just a few days ago, I was texting with some of my classmates. Going to say, remember 50 years ago? That was the day we started. So I was there from 71 to 75.
Wow. Very cool. Carl, I know you've been sitting there. Do you have any questions? I mean, I know you get to talk to Brian all the time, but maybe you have one you might throw at him. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, Colonel Duffy and I have talked a lot, and I always enjoy listening to him speak. But all the times that I've heard you speak, Brian, you have never told me about when you were watching Apollo 11 land. I mean, I'm wearing a Apollo 11 shirt right now, and that just and so I know you like to talk. You're still an advocate for for future exploration. So where do you see NASA? Where do you see humans going in the next few years or 10 years?
Yeah, so I think, it's going to be interesting. The next week is going to be really interesting, because on Sunday, Richard Branson is going to fly on the first flight, carrying non-crew members, carrying him. And they're going to, on a suborbital flight, and they're going to go up and, surpass 50 miles in their suborbital mission and come back and land. And then on the anniversary of the Apollo 11 mission, on July 20th, so just, a few days later, Jeff Bezos and his brother are going to ride on the New Shepard, the Blue Origin's vehicle, and they're going to go up, and they're going to go past 60 miles. And so I predict there's going to be an argument about who got to space first, because Branson's not going to get to, we in the space shuttle program, we considered the top of the atmosphere to be 400,000 feet. Because during entry, that we considered that was an entry, that we called it entry interface, and that's where the software would change from being in space to being in a blended environment where you're coming back into the atmosphere. Above 400,000 feet, you were just in space, and there was no aerodynamic things to worry about. But that's that's about 63 miles, give or take a little bit, and so. The first one to launch, Branson's going to get to 50 miles, which the FAA says you're an astronaut. The Air Force says you're an astronaut if you fly over 50. But a lot of the rest of the world says, no, that's not high enough. You got to be up at 50. So there's, I mean, you watch, there's going to be a real argument over who got to space first between Bezos and Branson.
I can already tell you that there already is an argument about it, and I won't say what particular fan group is really on about that, but it's one of those commercial space fan groups that's not space, those aren't astronauts, and I'm just like, hey, it's all good at the end of the day, right? So
yeah.
I'm all for it.
It's really going to be interesting to watch, though, because it's going to be a slugfest. There's an economic reason for it, right? Because the company that can say, well, we got to space first, will draw all the people that, these people that want to do this have a lot of money. And so they're going to want to go to the place which has the most credibility, I think. And so it's going to be an economic slugfest. It's going to be interesting. And in my mind, if you go past 50 miles, you've been really high.
And that's coming from an astronaut, so we're going to stamp that as the Duffy line, not the Kármán line anymore.
Not the Kármán line, right? Yeah.
Duffy line is 50 miles. Mark wants to know: were you ever really afraid, and if so, when?
You really can't be afraid and do this job. You have to have confidence in the people that designed and build the hardware, the people that put it together, the people that trained you. Because when you show up to be an astronaut, you might be the best at whatever it is you're doing, but you don't know anything about flying in space. So you depend on the trainers and the people to teach you what you need to know to be able to safely do this. And then when you're out there on the pad, you're just thinking, okay, I just need to go do what I've trained for. I got to do what even when you're in space, just do it. My motto was always, and it's actually the test pilot motto. It's that you plan your flight and then you fly your plan.
Mm.
So that's what we do. We train and plan the flight, and then we go out and we execute the plan. And that's what we do in the test pilot world, and that's what we did in the space shuttle world also.
Wow, I really like that. That applies to all things in life, I think. Plan it, and then do that plan, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
A couple quick more for you here, if that's okay. And Barry Allen wanted to know: did you have a telescope, and did you receive the Astronomy Merit Badge as a scout?
I'm embarrassed to say no, neither. I do have a telescope. In fact, I've had one for a while, and I'm introducing my grandchildren to astronomy every time we're able to have them at the house. If the sky's clear enough, we take them out and use it, and they're interested in that. But no, I didn't do the badge. I guess I didn't stay in long enough in the scouting world to get.
Would you be interested in joining an astronomical society? It's a family membership.
It is.
Just saying.
Oh yeah, bring the grandkids too.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, we'll make it work. And a couple more here. I know Eddie, you had one, and then we'll close out with one more after Eddie's.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what to call you. My instinct is to call you Mr. Duffy, but I think I heard Carl call you Colonel Duffy. Is that correct? Was that your rank at retirement?
Yes, it was. I was a full colonel in the Air Force, which I was very proud to wear the rank and wear the uniform and present the Air Force to the world when I was flying.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. I did it. I loved every day of it.
Well, I'm going to call you Colonel Duffy, if that's okay with you.
You can call me anything you want.
Just don't call him late for dinner, as the saying goes, right? Yeah. And then I know the answer to this one, but my friend, I got to throw it up because Brandon's a good buddy of mine. I know we all know that there were many secret shuttles built. They were all flown out of the Bermuda Triangle as well. My question to you, Brian, though, my last one would be, when the shuttle enters max Q, do you feel when they throttle the engines back, do you feel that? Or is the SRB so powerful that you just there's no transition for you as the astronaut riding the magic carpet, as it were, I guess?
Yeah. So you that's one of the milestones during ascent is, we go from milestone to milestone to milestone. We know what's going to happen next. We're looking forward to it, know what's going to happen next. But the boosters, when the engines throttle down, you don't notice it so much because the thrust of the boosters is kind of increasing at the same rate that the engines are pulling back. But they sit in what we call the thrust bucket for 6 or 7 seconds, I guess. And then once you're past max Q and you're climbing out, the atmosphere density is decreasing and you're climbing out, the engines the computers control it, but they'll throttle them back up. And you really feel the throttle up because that pushes you back in the seat significantly. And it's like lighting afterburners in an airplane. So you don't feel the throttle down so much as you definitely feel the throttle up.
Wow. Fascinating. Fascinating stuff. I mean, it's amazing that, you got to do such a cool thing, but you proved that you worked hard, as you were leading up to it. It was a lifelong journey to fly the shuttle. And now you're a rock star in all circles of the world, because shuttle astronauts, there's only a couple of hundred, maybe less than that, less than 100 even, I think. You guys, it's an amazing thing. You guys are our Mercury and Apollo astronauts. At least that's how I feel, because it's a generational thing. You know, we kind of hop to the next one. And so I just wanted to tell you, it's an absolute honor to have you on our astronomy meeting tonight. And it's an incredible presentation. We thank you so much for being here.
Well, it's really been my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation, and I was happy that we could make everything work out. So.
Yeah, and thanks to Carl right there, the man who brings the astronauts. So
he's a great man right there.
Hey, thanks, Colonel. I appreciate it, and it's always great to hear you. And yeah, again, thank you for your service, and yeah, thanks for your help and doing what we're passionate about, and that's exploring space.
All right. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna go take a break then and go have dinner with my wife.
Yeah, absolutely. Go have a bite. Thank you again, Colonel Duffy. We appreciate you. We'll see you on the flip side, sir. Thank you.
You bet. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Awesome stuff, guys.
Carl, thanks for doing that.
Hey,
excellent.
You guys are welcome. You know, he's a great guy to know, and honored to call him a friend. You know, and like as you heard from the presentation, like he got very technical with some points, but he also, you know, kind of like brought your emotions into it. Or even if you're not, you know, an engineering background, or, you know, I don't have an engineering background, but I have a, you know, history background. So it's good to hear both sides of it. You know, it's appealing to everybody, just kind of like our club does. How we appeal to very advanced astronomers and beginners. So
that's right, because everybody's on their own journey. Everybody, you know, especially with astronomy, you're on a different level than somebody just coming in, or somebody that's been in there for a decade longer than you. And so that's what makes a community like ours awesome, is that it's just a bunch of curious people wanting to explore and to understand more. And so it's awesome. Lots of people in the chat room loving what we just saw and what we're a part of. It's amazing stuff. As we're kind of closing out these online meetings, you know, it's kind of crazy. That was an interesting way to put the cherry on top for the pandemic, as it were. But like I said earlier in the meeting, we are going back to in-person meetings on August 6th, 2021. That's just a month away. We'll be back at the planetarium with Miss Rigsby. I don't know why I had trouble saying that. With snacks, like Eddie said. Eddie and them are going to bring snacks. I bet it's going to be amazing. And we're going to be back to kind of a normal, you know, which has been a little absent the past few months, it seems like. But we're getting back to it. And you know what we're getting back to also, what I think is pretty cool, is we're getting back to some solar activity. The sun is waking up, and I was a friend of mine was streaming online, Alan Mitchell from Dallas. He was showing some sunspots, and I was like, man, this is crazy. So I texted Eddie, of course, and I was like, dude, did you see that sunspot on there? It was like, and I knew he would have, because Eddie loves to pay attention to the sun. So I don't know, Eddie, what besides that sunspot, I mean, there's been some other cool things going on up there.
Oh, yeah. I'll talk about it if you'll let me do a solar report. We had a very exciting thing happen. I don't want to give it away, but it was an X-class flare.
Uh-oh, so the cat's out of the bag, huh?
Yeah. Did I say that out loud?
I think you did. I'll have to rewind the tape, though, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was an X-class flare. The first one in 4 years, Will. So that's very exciting.
Wow. I'll share your screen when you get it up, Barry Allen's presentation. I agree, Barry. I agree. And Spencer said, hands together, snacks. Hopefully there was some hand sanitizer on your hands as you rubbed them together. Okay. There you go.
Okay, let me know when you're ready to start.
You are good to go, sir.
Okay, so we are at the beginning of solar cycle 25. It's an 11-year cycle. The last solar cycle was 24. And as you see by this red line here, we're right here. And as Will said, it's coming alive. The sun is waking up. Now, it's taking its time It's rubbing its eyes. It doesn't want to get out of bed, but it's doing it. So I don't know if you remember the last meeting, we had a sunspot every single day of the previous 4 weeks. And guess what? The same thing has happened this 4 weeks. Every single day we had a sunspot. So we've had 46 spotless days for this year. And I think that's about 22% or 24%. And, you know, the sun's waking up. And every day that we have a sunspot on this little calendar, I made yellow. So all the days are yellow. And I put the sunspot numbers on the dates. And of course, the 20th was a solstice. So the days are now getting shorter officially.
All right, finally.
Yeah, so it's a long, slow process. So I won't bore you, but you can see we had a sunspot on every day, and on towards the end of June and 1st of July, we had several sunspots. And then on the 3rd of July, we had that X-class flare. It was a class 1.5. It's at the lower end of the X class, but it was definitely a big flare, and we'll see some pictures of that. I did something a little different. During the month, we had 8 active regions from 2833 all the way to 2840. And then I highlighted some of the ones that lasted a long time, like 2833 was 9 days, 2835 was 12 days. That's that big one that we'll talk about, and we'll see pictures of that. And then, of course, 2837 was 9 days. So a sunspot every day, or an active region every day, which is exciting. So here's the pictures of the sunspots, and they're labeled. Let me start this video, and it'll go through pretty quick. We started out the end of last month with 2833, and it was going off. I thought we were going to be blank, but there's 2835 that came back on, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. That's the size of 2 Earths right there. When it first came on, it was 2 individual spots, and each one of those spots was the size of the Earth, and one just absorbed the other one, and it became the size of 2 Earths. So on June 23rd, we had a C-class flare. It was a C3.4. They suspect it was probably stronger, but it wasn't even facing the Earth. We saw it. It was eclipsed by the edge of the sun. So that was exciting. It wasn't associated with any sunspot that I know of. On June 25th, that new sunspot that hadn't been named yet, but would eventually be named 2835. It came around the side, and it was big to begin with, and it just immediately got dark. I'm going to show you a video, and you'll see it as it comes on right here. That's them right there, and watch out, it evolves.
Wow.
That's 2 Earths right there, and one of them is just going to disappear, and the other one it seems like it takes all its mass, I guess, but it's huge. And it was very stable. They expected it to do a lot. It had some polarity, oddness to it, but at the end of the day, it didn't do that much. On June 27th, we had a coronal mass ejection. This was, I think, part of 2835 as it rolled off the end. No, it was part of 2833 as it rolled off. So a little bit of a solar mass going off into space there, not pointed at Earth, fortunately. And then on June 29th, that 2835, that big one, a photographer by the name of SOCIE Philip took this picture, and in this picture you can see some Ellerman bombs. Now, I'd never heard of these things.
Oh yeah.
So they were named after physicist Ferdinand Ellerman, and what they are magnetic reconnection points. And there in this picture, these white spots, I'm going to flip to a different picture. There, the circles are the Ellerman bombs, and I'll just go back and forth.
So Eddie, I think that's in the Astronomical League's Hydrogen Alpha Solar Award. I think that's one of the required things that you have to kind of see. So there you go.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So each one of these Ellerman bombs is 1/millionth as powerful as a true solar flare. So they're small compared to solar flares, but they're still, each one of them is equal to about 100,000 World War II class atomic bombs. So here's the size of the Earth down at the bottom left, and that's the size of the sunspot. It is not as big as it was going to get because this one's still there. This was all one active region. And I started to show you a magnetogram of this. It was interesting, but it would have taken a lot of explaining. That they thought there was going to be a lot more interaction between them, but there wasn't. So that's why I didn't include it. So those are the Ellerman bombs. And I'm sure there's a lot more in this picture that are not circled. Then on July 3rd, the day before our Independence Day, that huge X-class flare happened. And as I said before, it's the first X-class flare in our new solar cycle 25. And the last one was in 2017. It was the old solar cycle that it happened. And this flare happened. There wasn't even a sunspot or an active region. It just flared up. And it did it as it was going off this side of the sun. So I'm going to show you, here's where we are now in the cycle on this little upswing. And there was the last one 4 years ago. So it's been that long. We went through all of this minimum with no X-class flares.
Wow.
And that X-class flare, a couple of things happened, actually several things. There was a radio burst in the short wave, in the very high frequency, and the very low frequency. And you can see this chart shows this was a instrumentation in Norway that captured this. It was a pretty big spike in the very high frequency, a respectable spike in the short wave. The very low frequency took a dip. What I didn't expect was a deflection of the local magnetic field. And that's this blue line. It just fluctuated a little bit. But it affected the magnetic field on the Earth around the instrumentation. And also this magnetic declination, this was the magnetic declination. This purple or this blue line was a surge of electrical currents in the ground. They call that a magnetic crochet, and it occurs almost exactly when the flare happens. I mean, that's all X-ray and ultraviolet energy, and that's part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So that's 8 minutes from when it leaves the sun to where it hits the Earth. There's no mass. It's all X-rays and ultraviolet. So that's a solar flare. And here it is. So we're going to watch it. It's going to happen right about here. And as you can see, there's nothing there. I think this is, oh gosh, let me think. I wrote that down somewhere. This is 2835 down here. And then below it's 2836. Over on the top left is 2837. This is 2838. This whole area here, this bottom is nothing. It's just active in this wavelength. But let's see what happens. We're going to be watching right about there. No sunspot, no active region. It just suddenly starts coming alive, and it bangs out a couple of really, that's a good one.
Wow.
That's a good one, but there's a better one. That one. That thing just, it lit up the whole camera, and it even kept flaring as it rolled off behind it. Now they speculate that if that active region survives the transit across the backside and then rolls back on, that it might be kind of interesting if it continues to flare. There have been active regions and sunspots that have done that before. So on July 7th, 2837, another coronal mass ejection. This is different from a solar flare. Sometimes they happen together, but a coronal mass ejection is actually solar mass that comes on. It's electrons and neutrons and whatever atomic mass happens to be on the surface of the sun. It was a pretty big one. Again, not facing the Earth. And then today, 2840, it erupted twice. And it produced 2 flares, and the flares were just below M class, which would have put them at a high C class. But I mean, these things are starting to erupt, these solar flares, and they're getting stronger. The last few months I reported on B class and C class and was pretty excited when I did it. But these M class and X class, they're going to be something to see. And it's going to be interesting. These things happen, and they just coincidentally happen to not be pointing towards the Earth. I mean, it's like playing Wheel of Fortune. You just don't ever know when that's going to happen. Anyway, so that's the solar report for the end of June and the beginning of July. It was a short one.
Lots happening though, and that's the exciting part. I think, Eddie, is for a while there, you were reporting sun-spotless days. I remember. For a long time, it was like, well, there was no sunspots for the last several days. It's like, wow. And now here we are. And it's kind of cool to kind of see that when you put "you are here," that's really cool to see that we're on that upward climb.
Yeah. We've been doing these meetings for about a year, and I've been doing these solar reports online for about a year. And in that year, as you say, we've had many days of no spots. But here in the last couple of months, a spot every day, an active region every day. Exciting.
That is very cool. That is very cool. And lots of praise from the audience, Eddie. So great job as always on those. It's always fascinating because sometimes astronomy, people that maybe not be into astronomy as deep as maybe we are, maybe they're just coming in, they may take for granted the sun as an article of astronomy. Right? I mean, our houses are technically articles of astronomy, right? They're on the side of a planet, we're kind of creatures that evolved on the side of a planet. Here we are. So we're kind of astronomy too, right? But the sun is definitely overlooked, I think, a lot. It's kind of expensive to get into solar astronomy because you have to do it a very specific way, as all three of us know. And then you ultimately end up pretty much buying a telescope for one star, whereas you buy a nighttime telescope, you buy a telescope for 1 billion stars, right? So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there, but it's always cool to stay in touch with the sun because the sun could wreck our world. Like you said, Eddie, if one of those things gets pointed at us, it's more like Wheel of Misfortune, I think, if our number comes up on that. And doesn't it have to come off the sun at an angle and sort of project most of the CME to where the Earth will be when it finally gets there, which is like, a day or so?
Coronal mass ejections travel at different speeds depending on how much energy it took to get them off the surface. Some of them travel pretty quick, and then some of them travel a little bit slower. The slow ones take up to 3-4 days. The quick ones be here in a couple of days. And what's happened, and it happened the last month, a slow one blew off, and as you said, it was swirling around, and then a fast one blew off. And it was like it was an impact. The fast one hit the slow one and pushed it on, which made it bigger. The two together were bigger than either one of them individually.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a name for that, and that's a whole other report.
Yeah, and we need to pay attention to that. That's why NASA has invested billions into solar observatories over the years, whether it's Solar Dynamics Observatory. I think the first one was like SOHO, or one of the earlier ones anyways, SOHO, and then they had stereo A and B. I think it was stereo, or was it front and behind? I forget how
it was stereo A and B.
Yeah.
And one of them's not working. So
oh, really? I didn't know that.
I think stereo B's offline.
Oh man. Well, I guess if you launch 2 satellites, having one working out of the 2 is pretty good still, I guess. Right?
Yeah. And we're pretty sure that our electrical grid can handle some type of a electromagnetic storm. What we're not so sure about is our GPS system, because all that stuff's in orbit, and it's not hardened at all for that.
Yeah, that much energy, right? And the atmosphere protects us down here on the magnetosphere and everything else. They don't have that. You know, there's weak spots when you get higher and higher, you know, as you go up. And I guess at a certain point, though, like the Carrington event back in 18 something or other, it doesn't matter what you're protected by. If a CME of a certain size hits Earth, you know, it was causing telegraph machines to catch fire and massive power outages and all sorts of things, which is at the very beginning of the power grid. And the sun's like, hey, you thought you were doing something cool with power. Let me show you how it really works. So it's pretty cool. There was a guy that actually, Carrington, I forget his first name, scientist, that he drew the sun every day. And he actually watched that solar flare happen on the sun that day. And he described it as a beam of light, not a beam, but like a kidney bean, like a black-eyed pea or something, a beam of light. And he drew it that way. So it's a fascinating thing. Yeah, very cool, Eddie. Thank you so much. And Robert has a question. We've been carrying out Zoom meetings for our local club. Would like to know if Eddie would be interested in doing his solar report for our club. We meet every first Friday of the month. Now you have a steady job now, Eddie.
Get in contact with me, Robert, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, and he only charges $3.50 for the. So as we're winding down here, guys, I wanted to throw out a few things that y'all need to know about in astronomy. And one of those things that you need to know about is that there are these things called star parties. I know for a couple of years now, it seems a lot of these events have been canceled. And that's very true. That's what's been happening. But they're back, just like in-person meetings for our astronomy club are coming back. One of the star parties that I'm going to talk about is Rocky Mountain Star Stare. It's in Colorado, near a town called Gardner, I believe. Gardner, Colorado. There's the almost said right ascension and declination. That's so dumb. There's the latitude and longitude on the right-hand side of the screen. That is definitely not right ascension and declination. Its altitude is really nice, 7,600 feet. That's about 600 feet higher than the McDonald Observatory. So very cool star party there. Not as dark as the skies as you can get, but the altitude is great. The facility is fairly nice. I don't think there's any power out there, so it's something you need to prepare for with batteries and things like that. But they will be having Harrison Schmitt, Apollo 17 lunar module pilot, which is pretty ridiculous that he's going to go out there and hang out and do a talk. So if that's something you want to do, that's Thursday, September 2nd through Monday, September 6th. Coming up real soon. So if you're going, I would start making plans because, you know, going to a star party can sometimes be an ordeal. And that's one you should definitely check out. It's one that's on my bucket list for sure. Maybe a yearly thing once I get everything back in order after all this stuff. Also, the 28th annual Nebraska Star Party, August 1st through the 6th. You can see it out there on like we were talking about last month. It looks like a golf course next to a lake. It's a beautiful location. Everybody's nice and spread out. So even during a COVID time, you'd probably be okay as long as you didn't get in big groups. But those days are over now. So we can all get uncomfortably close to each other. We can go back to normal, I guess, at star parties where people set up their scope right next to you. And you're like, okay, there it is. All right. But no, this is a cool star party, August 1st through 6th. I've heard it's incredibly dark skies. I don't think, Carl, you've ever been to it, but it seems like a good one and one that I would definitely love to go to in the future. Maybe Eddie and I can carpool up there. We'll bring our campers one year. And one that we always do. I mean, it's a staple around these parts. The Okie-Tex Star Party. I remember hearing about Okie-Tex from my friend Kelly Taylor when I was in high school. And I was like, what are you what does Okie-Tex even mean? What is this you keep saying? And then I got older and I found out. I messed around and I found out. October 1st through the 9th is Okie-Tex. They shifted the schedule a little bit here. Most star parties, you kind of come in on like a Sunday and you leave on Sunday. but they kind of shifted it a little bit here, I guess, to give people the weekend to drive home. So I think it ends on a Friday. I can't exactly recall. But if you have a calendar in front of you, you can check on that, which is kind of interesting. I don't know, Eddie. It's going to feel a little weird, a little counter to tradition, but it should be fun, I guess.
You know, I looked online and I saw you were already registered, and I thought, you know, I talked it over with Kat, and it's like, that's a good, you know, you're right. It's an odd time of the month, but that's a good date for us. So I'm pretty sure we're going to go, or I'm going to go for sure.
Awesome. Well, good. I couldn't imagine doing it without you, Eddie. It's a great star party. I don't know if you can see it in the tiniest little bit of the panhandle of the red Oklahoma state there. There's a tiny little dot at the end of it. That's where we'll be. There's actually a meme that came out not long ago, and it was like, it circled that area of Oklahoma, and they were like, it was like, what in the world actually happens here? You know, and I every time I see that meme come up, I'm like, actually, the Okie Tech Star Party happens here, and here's one of my videos on it. You know, it's kind of like that whole thing. But it's funny that a meme came out about that exact area, which will probably ruin that place. Now, tons of people are going to go flock out there and realize how cool of an area it is. Courtney says Okie Tech is amazing. I happen to agree. Okie Tech is one of those star parties where you have power on the field. There's talks like every day, all day long. There's talks. It's amazing. There's seminars you can go to that you can pay for extra, like Pix Insight, hosted by my friend Jonathan Talbot. There's just so much to do at Okie Tech. You could go and do none of that and just walk around and talk to your fellow astronomers and learn more in one expedition than you would learn in 10 years of doing it on your own. And I promise you that. Because that's kind of my story. It's visual observing was kind of an enigma to me until I joined the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas and started going to things like this and having mentors like Howard Miner, Eddie, and some others in the club. So it's one that I definitely recommend. I definitely recommend y'all hit up Okie Tech. And like Eddie said, you can register now, get it out of the way, and then wait for October, as the song says, which no one knows that song. So I've outed myself as a weird song nerd. So,
and Will, you were wondering, it goes from Friday to Saturday.
Friday to Saturday. Okay, so they give you Sunday to drive home, which is good, I guess, right? And like Courtney said, the vendors are amazing. Vendor hall is fantastic at Okie Tech. It has by far the best vendor selection that I've ever seen at a star party, and it's just a fun time. The dry camping all the way, but the weather is usually nice until it isn't. I will tell you to prepare for what we call SOCIE techs, which happens every 10 years, I think. And hopefully we can avoid the hurricane Okie techs, which I've heard is a bad thing too.
I saw one of the best lightning storms I've ever seen in my life at Okie Tech, and it was passing right over us.
It's never a good place for the best one that you've ever seen in the past.
Well, the lightning never hit the ground. It was all up in the clouds. It was amazing.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Courtney says, I've never experienced it. That's because the one year in 2018 when it was a SOCIE Tech, I went without her. And that was the loneliest, most miserable, depressing week of my life because I stayed through the whole thing because I was like, the weather's going to get better. And then it just kept not getting better. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to stay for the giveaway because I'm going to win. And I didn't win a thing. So sometimes you play the game and your numbers don't come up. That's the way it goes. But lots of funny stories from Okie Tech. It's one of the best. We could sit here and go on and on all night about Okie Tech, but we probably shouldn't. We'll be talking about it more next month for sure. El Dorado Star Party is another one out in West Texas. It's about 3 hours west of San Antonio, so it's not all that hard to get to. The skies are actually very dark and very nice. The X-Bar Ranch, where it is held, is an amazing facility. There's 2 large observing fields, so you can kind of set up near your stuff if you want to, and go visit back and forth between the fields, which is always a fun thing. Eddie and Kat, my 2 friends in astronomy, are regulars at this star party, and so am I. So odds are, if you go to an El Dorado Star Party, you'll see one or at least all of the 3 of us probably. And hopefully, who knows, maybe we can get Carl out there Hopefully, I know.
I'm trying to plan to go to my very first one.
Awesome.
This is a good first one, Carl. This one has power on the field for sure. And like Will says, the X-Bar Ranch, the lodge there is just, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Cat's going to register you, Eddie, for Okie-Tex, which is amazing. So you really have no choice in the matter, sir. You're going, and we're going to be set up next to each other. But yeah, El Dorado is a great one. Like Eddie said, I mean, the infrastructure is really good. If you really want to get out under dark skies, you don't want to drive 809,000 miles to a spot to do it. You can do that here at El Dorado, unless you live in like Kansas, I guess, and then it's a long drive. But
El Dorado, I'm the registrar.
Kat is the registrar for El Dorado. So if you register for El Dorado, you have to do so through Miss Kat Trevino. So don't upset her. And like Courtney said, El Dorado is around Halloween time too, which is amazing.
Yeah.
People put Halloween decorations out for their stuff, but well, mostly Courtney and I, we put out Halloween decorations when it's that time. She says she loves the X Bar. I do too. We go to the X Bar a couple times a year at least, outside of El Dorado Star Party. It's because it's so close. It's like 7 hours for us, and it's incredibly dark skies with good infrastructure, and sometimes our friends join us, which is amazing. Eddie and myself went out there a couple months ago.
Was it November, Will?
Oh man, I don't even remember now. I think it was earlier. I feel like it was like it was like spring or something.
Yeah, February, May.
Yeah,
it was too long. It was too long.
It's too long. Yeah, we need to get our scopes back out under the sky. But those are the star parties that are coming up. I'm sure there are more, but I kind of do a regional thing because our club is based in the Texas area. So there's other star parties like Cherry Springs, I think, was canceled. Josh Anderson in the chat could help us with that. A couple of others that were ultimately, I think, canceled that were going to be in like time frame of nowish. So, and I know they moved Rocky Mountain Star Stare, which would have been last month in June, but they moved it to Labor Day weekend. So there's some shifting going around because of the pandemic. And I think in 2022, everything will be mostly back to normal. I'll knock on wood, whatever kind of particle board I have here or whatever, knock on whatever to make sure that happens. But we'll see how that goes. And then next year, I'll conclude that by saying the Texas Star Party will happen on April 24th through May 1st at the Prude Ranch in Deep West Texas, near Fort Davis, Texas. If you're curious on the Googles, you can type in Fort Davis, Texas, or McDonald Observatory, whichever one, and then just split the difference. And that's where the Prude Ranch is. It's between Fort Davis and the McDonald. And that will be April 24th through May 1st. I know Courtney and myself will be there. Pretty sure Eddie and Kat will be there as well. And hopefully y'all can join us as well. Eventually, we'll all see each other out there, hopefully. Hey, and there's Mr. Joe Califf.
How you doing, Joe?
Mr. Joe Califf is the president of the Houston Club. I'd say our sister club, only because they're cooler than us and they have 800 and some odd members, getting close to 900, I think, which is a little more than 38 families, but not many more. Not many more. But it's good to see you, Joe. Thanks for joining us. Come hang out with the cool kids, as Courtney says. Yeah, that's right. I guess we're the cool kids now, Eddie. That's pretty cool. As we're closing out, guys, I wanted to mention the ISS passes for the next coming little bit. You can see that the dates here start actually in a few days. That's when the trend sort of starts coming. But what I thought was interesting is this is the exact slide I used last month. Okay. So this is heavensabove.com. Anybody can go there. You can plug in your location and it'll tell you when the awesome ISS passes that are coming will be visible. So here they are. There's the date, the magnitude, and all of that. And note the times. Pick any one you want. Doesn't matter which date you pick, but pick the start time. Let's just say, for instance, so you see on July 12th, you see right at the top there, it'd be 21:07:19. That's the start time. So then I was getting the meeting ready today, the final parts of it, and I noticed something interesting because, again, I put this slide up last month for the dates now. right? This is this month's. So pick a date, note the time. Okay, everybody have a date and time. It's not a magic trick. I promise you, I'm not going to pick your number, but pick one and then watch this. Now, here are the passes that I updated today. I took this screenshot today, and tell me what y'all notice. I already noticed what it is, but you know, it's
everything. Mine shifted a couple of minutes.
Yeah, what about like 6 or 7 minutes? Maybe I think it was
6 minutes.
Yeah. So that's the error in the prediction from a month ago. So you can imagine with the International Space Station, if you made a prediction for 6 months from now, there'd be a way you could calculate how far off you would be, because the space station is ever so slightly falling back towards the Earth. Okay, so its orbit is degrading over time, and every so often, you have to boost the space station back up to a higher altitude, which increases its orbital times just by a few minutes we see there. And I thought that was super fascinating. So these are the dates for the next set of visible passes. This is it, guys. Actually, after this, there's a big gap, and it goes into August before we get passes here in Beaumont.
Wow.
Now, that's different for other parts of the world. If you're in India right now and you're watching, if you're in California and you're watching, these times will be different for you. You may not even see these passes at all. But if you're here in Beaumont, Texas, or around this area, these are the times you'll want to see. And there's a couple in there. What's funny is if you go back, where I have the arrow indicating the best passes, you can see 14th and 15th there of July, -3.7, and on both of those. But if I go forward, you see it. The first one changes to -3.4, and the one on the 15th goes to almost -4th magnitude, which is ridiculously bright. It's like taking a little piece of the sun off and putting it in the sky, basically. Of course, it's not that bright, but y'all get what I'm saying. The small
on July 13th, that's going to be a good night anyway, because you're getting the conjunction between Venus and Mars, and it looks like if it's starting in the southwest, it'll be crossing it in the vicinity, right? I mean, I don't think it'll be too close, but you'll be pointing that way, and you'll see it. I wonder how close it will get to that planetary conjunction.
That's interesting. And you could easily figure that out depending on where you are. If you click on I can't do it here, it's a screenshot, but if you go to heavens-above.com, you can click on the blue date, and it'll open up a map of the sky and show you the projected trajectory of the space station across the star field. So, if you see like Gemini, and you know that Gemini is in the west or whatever, yeah, you know that you'll be over in the west. That's interesting, Carl. I don't know. I'd like to see.
I mean, that would be the ultimate space station capture. You catch that going between Mars and Venus. I mean, what are the odds? But
yeah, you get an APOD for that, I'm pretty sure. And there's a way to calculate it too. There is definitely a way to calculate it. I don't know the math behind it. I just trust all the websites that tell me where to go and where to be, and they're really accurate. Like ISS Transit Finder and things like that. But that's an interesting prediction there, Carl. I wonder if there's a way, if we can test it and see if there's a road at some county, some county not far from here that we could put ourselves on. And I'm sure there is. It's probably out in the Gulf of Mexico, though, where we need to be to see this. That's how it works for us usually. But
what is that? There's another website you use is it ISS Transit Finder?
Yeah, Transit Finder.
But it's only going to do the sun and the moon, right?
That's right. Yeah. So you would have to use something like Sky Safari Pro and play around with where you were versus the planetary conjunction and the ISS. And so that would, you'd have to look at that and then put yourself on the map in Sky Safari in different places until you found the right mixture.
That's beyond my capabilities. I'm just going to wait for July 13th. Hope we have clear skies, and if I get a picture of it, cool. If I see it, that'd be good enough.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, I looked up Heavens Above, and I went to July 13th for my area. The The ISS pass goes between the conjunction and the moon.
Wow.
Don't know what time this is. Well, I mean, it says 1910.
1910, which is a little earlier than what they have listed here.
Yeah.
A lot earlier. A couple of hours earlier. Ooh, man, this is interesting. So this is something we can look at. I know Josh Anderson says he's excited to observe the conjunction. I think the conjunctions are dead for me after the Saturn and Jupiter one. How do you climb another mountain after Everest? You know, I don't. It doesn't even make sense. But no, of course that's not true. I love conjunctions because who doesn't, right? The juxtaposition of objects that are millions of miles apart from each other in our solar system just kind of brings perspective down to you, you know, like to tell you if you're looking at it like, and you kind of can imagine those distances, it's absolutely incredible.
Visually observing and capturing that, the Saturn and Jupiter great conjunction, that was my first conjunction I had seen. So how do you, like you said, how do you top that? But
yeah, it's hard to come down off one of those, you know, especially for, you know, and there was a lot of buzz online about that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, when I did my live stream, that was fantastic for me because it exploded, which was great. And it was a beautiful thing to be able to, during a live stream, do outreach from my telescope in my driveway right over here to like 10,000 people live. That was a really cool moment for me. That was the biggest audience I've ever known of anyone that has done anything like that. And because, I mean, just think about that. There were 10,000 people that were into Jupiter and Saturn sitting next to each other in the sky because it was the Christmas star and all this. They hyped it up, and then it came and it went. And some people didn't get to see it at all. I was lucky enough to actually get to see it visually and live stream it. So that just kind of shows you, I guess, like the demand for space it's definitely still there. And I think maybe, I don't know, maybe you guys can weigh in on this. I think it's getting worse, the demand for space, or better.
I guess it depends on which organization you're following. With NASA specifically, we're still waiting. We're waiting for SLS to happen. We're waiting for, the Artemis program has started, I guess, but it hasn't flown yet. So yeah. But then you look at the other companies, SpaceX. Will, you're very familiar with them. Seeing what they do. So that part, very, very exciting. So yeah, we still got stuff to look forward to.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I know, Eddie, you're planning to probably get out and observe probably some solar stuff. I'm sure coming up on the clear days. And of course, we're going to be at what's the next one? Oh, hopefully Okie-Tex, right?
Yeah, Okie-Tex will be the next one that I have a chance to go to.
Yeah, and Josh says, I remember that live stream. It was epic. Yeah, it was crazy. Usually I can keep up with the comments, but with that many people watching, there was no way. Luckily, my cousin Tammy came out and saw the urgency there and came out and helped me out. So thank you, Tammy, for helping me with that. That was pretty amazing. That's really all we have, I think, for a Friday night meeting. Pretty cool, man. Again, I've never been the host of a thing that I can recall with an astronaut, although I have been on live streams with Dr. Cyan Proctor, who is the pilot for Inspiration 4. So a friend of mine is about to go to space and become an astronaut, which is pretty cool. But again, Carl, thank you, man, for getting in contact with Colonel Duffy. And he wrapped up like decades of incredible stuff that we could sit here and probably listen to for hours. He wrapped it up in such a short time, but he just kept my imagination like you said, Carl, the story about him playing basketball and glancing in at the television over there where they're landing on the moon, and he's like, man, that's kind of that perspective thing, which is incredible.
Yeah, like I said, I hadn't heard that, and I've heard him speak, probably 100 times, and we've played golf together and other things. But yeah, just that's what's so cool. You can you hear something new or you learn something new. Like that's always the best thing out of it. And yeah, I could listen to him, all day. But yeah, hopefully at one of our in-person meetings, we can get him to come and enjoy the meeting with us. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, we'll see what else we can wrap up.
Yeah, and Carl, like I said, Carl's the guy who got us the contact there, and so direct all your love and hate mail to Carl. No, but it was an amazing thing, man. We really appreciate that. And again, Colonel Duffy, thank you. If you're still out there somewhere, I know he's having dinner right now. Maybe he'll see it later. Thank you so much for coming as well. And Eddie, thank you for being here, man. We really appreciate your solar reports. You're really keeping us in tune with the things that are going on, like right in our backyard. So
yeah, I'm glad to do it, Will. I just wish that I could see some of that stuff in real life.
Yeah.
We'll never see X-ray flares, or we'll never see a lot of the things that happen. We just got to read about them, but it is fascinating.
It is, and it helps us to visualize it the way you do, Eddie, which it's incredible to see that how the evolution is happening. We've been monitoring it for months this way online. Of course, we do it at the meetings too, and of course, we'll keep doing that as we keep going forward. And thank you, Sharon. We appreciate you hanging out with us this evening. Thank you, Adam. Good to see you guys hanging out with us in the chat, and all of y'all in the chat. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all for sharing the feeds and liking the stuff and doing all those things that you're supposed to do. Every YouTube video, they say smash the like button or something, and hit the subscribe button and all that. We don't need to say that because I just did, and y'all all know what to do. So if y'all are following us out there on the Astronomical Society Facebook page, we appreciate that. It's a great way to stay in touch with us. If you don't want to join the club, but you want to stay, on top of what we're doing and where we will be, you can do that there. My channel, Deep Sky Dude, you can follow our stuff there. I usually post recaps of our outreach events when we go to the Beaumont Children's Museum or the Martin Dyes State Park or wherever we're at. I usually do little recap videos, so you can find them there and stuff. And Don Adams says, I've actually made most of the meeting for a change. Well, at least you caught part of it, right? That's the only thing that matters, which is pretty awesome. Robert says, thanks, guys. Great meeting. Good night from Sudbury. Did I say that right? Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. Did I say that right? Canada? No. Thank you, Robert, for hanging out with us. We appreciate you guys up in Canada hanging out with us.
Yeah, our neighbors to the north.
Yeah. And I don't know if I thanked you, Carl, but thank you for being here, man. Thank you for hanging with us.
Hey, glad to be here. And yeah, look forward to seeing you guys and doing the in-person meetings. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah. August 6th. And I want to reiterate that we probably won't be meeting online next month for the meeting. However, that may change. There's some logistical things we would have to kind of work out. I'm not even sure if it's a possibility. It might be. So I don't want to make any promises. But for those of y'all that are in the Beaumont area, come and visit us again at the Beaumont Planetarium. It's at the Beaumont Independent School District, the Murray J. Frank, or the Frank Planetarium. If you Google that, you'll find it. And so we'll see y'all there. I see Kat's arm making an appearance there. So say hello, Kat. There she is. She's like, oh, I'm on camera now. Great.
Yeah.
Great to see you, Kat. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you, Andy from Burbank, California. Hey, Kenny. Good to see you. Right at the end, but you can always rewind the episode and watch it if you want to, which I think you should. I'm going to go watch Brian's presentation again later on. So,
and Will, good job to you. You've done good for an entire year plus putting these meetings together, and I'm very excited to be back in person. But thanks to you for keeping this thing going. Great job.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that, and I couldn't do it without my homies being on the thing with me again. I mean, I could be on here by myself, but that wouldn't be any fun. But I really appreciate you guys, as always, hanging out with me. And, we had to keep the club going somehow, right? We couldn't just let the pandemic ruin that too. So we did what everybody else did, what they're doing in Canada, what Robert and his club are doing. And so That's what we have to do. Courtney says, "You're amazing, Will. I'm not biased." Well, she might be a little biased. That's where we'll leave that. So again, thank y'all for joining us. We are the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas. We're a 501c3 nonprofit here in Beaumont, Texas. If you want to be a member, definitely you can do that. Will for president. I've been president for 10 years, Josh. I think it's almost a dictatorship. After 10 years, you have to call it legally by law a dictatorship, I believe. Somebody can probably educate me on that. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate y'all. And hey, maybe we'll see y'all next month. But if not, thank y'all to everybody who's been watching us during the pandemic, all the way from April until now. It's been a lot of fun. We've had worldwide viewership, thousands of views on a little old club from Beaumont doing astronomy. So we thank y'all so much for watching us. And we're going to gear up for in-person meetings, which is fantastic. Which is coming soon. We have elections coming soon. And like Courtney said, Eddie for president. She said, LOL. Benevolent dictatorship, which I think that's a good thing, right? Is that a good thing? Or I think so.
Benevolence is good, yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Malevolence is the other one, right? I always get them mixed up. So thank you guys for watching. We're going to go and have dinner or maybe observe the cloud nebula because I think it's raining right now.
Yeah.
So
it's cloudy here.
Yeah, unfortunately, but hopefully those clouds will break and we'll all get to view. Thank y'all for watching again. This has been the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas. We will see y'all on the flip side. And
good night, everyone. Good night, Carl and Will.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks, Will.
Have a good one, y'all.